All right, we're back. 2 videos in a row. Let's go. You know what makes this easy is that I don't have to edit any of this because I'm just doing live reactions, and who cares? Long form content is back, baby. And also, if you hear, I realized this was happening in my last video, there's been beeping, not in my apartment, but in surrounding apartments. So if you hear that, I'm really sorry. It is not you, it's me. It's been an issue for 2 months. It's driving me crazy. It's also driving my dog crazy, and he has to literally be living with my parents right now because he's so stressed out by the sound. So anyway, we are here to talk about how gross Matt Gaetz is. His committee report was just released, and you'd love to see a downfall of a gross man, you know? Okay. If you just heard the beep, I'm so sorry. Okay, let me see. Is this the best one? Yeah, let's just do, I don't know if it really matters. Okay, anyway, so in the matter of allegations relating to Representative Matt Gaetz. Also, I love that he tried to not have this released because he was not a member of Congress anymore, or the House of Representatives. And I'm just like, sir, just stop. Okay. So we are going to skip past all of this stuff. So maybe actually let me not make you dizzy while I scroll. It just goes through, you know, all this stuff, and then the okay. Here we go. Okay. All right. Okay. So introduction. On April 9th, 2021, the committee announced it was investigating a series of widely reported allegations relating to Matt Gaetz. At the request of the DOJ, the committee deferred its review during the 117th Congress. After it was organized for the 118th Congress, the committee reauthorized its investigation into the allegations involving Gaetz. Specifically, the committee undertook a review of allegations that Representative Gaetz may have engaged in inappropriate misconduct and/or use of substances, shared inappropriate images or videos on House floor, misused state identification records, converted campaign funds to personal use and/or accepted a bribe, improper gratuity, or impermissible gift. In June 2024, following extensive fact-finding, the committee determined to continue its review of the allegations of inappropriate misconduct, illegal substance use, and acceptance of impermissible gifts, and expanded its review to include allegations that Matt may have dispensed special privileges and favors to individuals with whom he had a personal relationship and obstructed government investigations into his conduct. At that time, the committee determined to take no further action on the allegations relating to the House floor, state identification records, personal use of campaign funds, and acceptance of bribe or gratuity. On November 14th, Gaetz resigned from the House after the president-elect announced his intention to nominate him for AG. As a result of that resignation, the committee lost jurisdiction to continue its investigation. He subsequently withdrew from consideration for the position of AG. At this time, he has not announced any intent to seek higher office or return to Congress. Thank God. The committee has typically not released its findings after losing jurisdiction in a matter. However, there are a few prior instances where the committee has determined that it was in the public interest to release its findings, which I agree with. The committee does not do so lightly. In this instance, although several committee members objected, a majority agreed these findings should be shared with the public. In sum, the committee found substantial evidence of the following. 1. From at least 2017 to 2020, Matt Gaetz regularly paid women for engaging in intimate activities with him. In 2017, Matt engaged in intimate activity with a 17-year-old girl. Bye-bye, Matt. Bye-bye. During the period 2017 to 2019, Gaetz used or possessed illegal substances, including snow and E, on multiple occasions. You know, I don't think this is like that big of an issue. I guess it's depending on, was it like during work hours? Like you can do whatever you want outside of work hours, but like, what is that? I'm not sure. He accepted gifts, including transportation and lodging in connection with a 2008 trip to the Bahamas in excess of permissible amounts. Literally, like so many people in government do that, so I'm not surprised. In 2018, he arranged for his chief of staff to assist a woman with whom he engaged in intimate activity in obtaining a passport, falsely indicating to the U.S. Department of State that she was a constituent. Okay. Representative Gaetz knowingly and willfully sought to impede and obstruct the committee's investigation of this conduct, and he acted in a manner that reflects discreditably upon the House. Based on the above, the committee concluded there was substantial evidence that Gaetz violated House rules, state and federal laws, and other standards of conduct prohibiting prostitution. Sorry, I'm trying to not get flagged. R-wording a minor and using illicit substances, accepting impermissible gifts, and the provision of special favors and privileges and obstruction of Congress. The committee did not find sufficient evidence to conclude that he violated the federal trafficking statute. Well, that's one good thing, I guess. Although he did cause the transportation, he did cause the transportation of women across state lines for purposes of paid intimate acts. The committee did not find evidence that any of those women were under 18 at the time of travel, nor did the committee find sufficient evidence that concluded the paid intimate acts were induced by force, fraud, or coercion. Okay. He was, obviously, he was uncooperative during the review. He provided minimal documentation in response to the committee's requests. He also did not agree to be voluntarily interviewed. On July 11th, 2024, the committee issued a subpoena for his testimony. He did not appear. I guess I don't know enough about how this process works, but if you get subpoenaed in like an actual court, you're held in contempt. So I don't know how that works for this committee. I'm assuming it's not as strict, but I don't know enough about this, the ethics committee, to know. He did not appear despite having received notice of the date and time of the deposition. The committee then sent him a set of written questions to which he issued a public response that ignored most of the direct questions about his misconduct and mischaracterized the committee's investigation and his participation up to that point. Despite his claims to the contrary, the committee's singular mission is to protect the integrity of the House. When faced with serious public allegations against a member, the committee will often investigate, and when such allegations are false, the committee has a shared goal with the respondent to disprove those allegations. While the committee considered whether to establish an investigative subcommittee to consider sanctions against Gaetz, the committee ultimately determined that it would not risk further victimization of the women involved in this matter. Okay, I can appreciate that. Most of the women with whom the committee spoke also gave statements to the DOJ and urged the committee to rely on those statements in lieu of requiring them to relive their experience. Also appreciate that. They were particularly concerned with providing additional testimony about a sitting congressman in light of the DOJ's lack of action on their prior testimony. Yeah. Again, it's so brave for women to come forward when they experience these things, and then people don't do anything, and that's why people don't want to come forward. DOJ refused to provide the relevant statements and other significant evidence to the committee. What? And they cited internal policies about protecting uncharged subjects. Oh my God. Uncharged subjects like Gaetz, general concern about how DOJ's cooperation with the committee may deter other victims in other matters, and various I don't even know what that is. I've never heard that word before. Inapposite? Okay. We're going to Google that word because I don't know what that means. Inapposite, out of place, or inappropriate. All right. We learned something new today, folks. Inapposite policies relating to congressional oversight of the DOJ itself. DOJ's initial deferral request and subsequent lack of cooperation with the committee's review caused significant delays in the investigation. Those delays were compounded by Gaetz' obstructive efforts. The committee has determined that its findings must be released without further impediments. Accordingly, December 10th, the committee voted on whether to release this report. Although several members did not support its release, the majority of the members voted to favor. I want them to release who said yes and who said no. Please and thank you. Okay, procedural history. I don't know how much we necessarily care about this. They publicly announced they were investigating him for these handful of things that we read above. In February, the committee asked the DOJ for an update on its deferral request. Multiple witnesses, the congressman, would not be charged in connection with the investigation. Shortly thereafter, DOJ confirmed the committee it was no longer requesting a deferral. In June, the committee announced the scope of the inquiry would focus on the allegations of inappropriate misconduct, illicit substance use. Okay, so they scoped it down. The chairman and ranking member sent 9 requests for information and 6 Freedom of Information Acts requests. Also authorized 29 subpoenas for documents and testimony reviewed. 14,000 documents? Okay, that's a fuck ton of documents. And contacted more than 2 dozen witnesses. They also received sworn written responses from an associate of Matt Gaetz, Joel Greenberg, as discussed further below. However, the committee determined that due to credibility issues, it would not rely exclusively on information by Mr. Greenberg in making any findings. Shortly after the DOJ withdrew its deferral request and the committee reauthorized its review, the committee sent DOJ a request for information after 3 months without a response. Despite, repeated follow-up, the committee submitted Freedom of Information Act requests to several relevant DOJ offices, which to date have not been adequately processed. The committee continued to reach out to the DOJ throughout 2023, having still not received a substantive response to its request for information. In January, the committee received its first correspondence for DOJ on the matter. It has been going on for a long time, too. At that time, DOJ provided no substantive response for explanation of its delay. Instead, they simply said, quote, "It does not provide non-public information about law enforcement investigations that do not result in charges." This, quote, policy is, however, inconsistent with their historical conduct with respect to the committee and its unique role in upholding the integrity of the House. All right, Matt Gaetz, who you got on the inside of the DOJ, baby? Let us know. Thereafter, the committee determined to issue a subpoena to the DOJ to obtain records relating to its investigation of Matt Gaetz. They did not comply with the subpoena by the date required, but suggested it remained, quote, "committed to good faith engagement with the committee." That's fucking hilarious. We'll engage in good faith, but we're not going to send you anything that you need. What does that mean? In the spirit of cooperation, the committee provided a list of specific responsive documents setting out particularized demands to the subpoena. Among the particularized demands was a request for an exculpatory evidence relating to Matt Gaetz. On March 13th, 2024, committee members met with the Assistant AG for the Office of Legislative Affairs and the Principal Deputy Assistant AG for the Criminal Division of DOJ. The DOJ officials, again, cited no legal basis for failing to comply with the subpoena. They subsequently requested additional context from the committee's demands, which the committee provided. After further attempts at meaningful accommodation of the DOJ's concerns about the breadth of the committee's request, the DOJ ultimately provided publicly reported information about Oh my God. Hey, they're just sharing public information. Isn't that so helpful? Oh, of a deceased individual. Wait, what is that about? I'm not exactly sure what that's in relation to. To date, the DOJ has provided no meaningful evidence or information to the committee or cited any lawful basis for its responses. The committee hopes to continue to engage with the DOJ on the broader issues raised by its failure to recognize the committee's unique mandate. As the committee has told the DOJ, The committee and DOJ should be partners in their shared mission of upholding the integrity of government institutions. Okay. The committee initially made a narrowly tailored request for information to Representative Gaetz, seeking information limited to the allegations that would not be within the DOJ's jurisdiction, the alleged acceptance of an improper gift, and sharing unclothed images and videos on the House floor. That's crazy behavior, if that's, which I'm assuming they provide evidence for. What are we doing? The request also invited Gaetz to provide additional information relevant to any of the allegations under review. He sought numerous extensions and complained about the burden of the request. He ultimately provided only 3 pages of information in response to their initial request. Maybe there's going to be more. Maybe let's give him the benefit of the doubt. He provided more than 3 pages. It's just the 3 pages. It's just in really big font. I am the first page. There's I on the first page, am on the second page, innocent on the third page. Like, that's all he provided. On May 20th, 2024, the committee requested Gaetz inform the committee whether he would agree to participate in that voluntary interview and provide him a list of allegations so that he could make any response or provide any information regarding the allegations. He provided brief written denials on the allegation and, quote, demanded that the committee address leaks prior to me providing any oral testimony to the committee. On June 8th, 2024, the committee requested that Gaetz provide the committee with all records previously produced to the DOJ, as well as dates of availability for an interview by July 8th. At that time, the committee made an explicit request for any exonerating information. The committee also informed him that it could not permit further delays. Gaetz did not produce the requested documents or dates of availability, and on July 10th, he asked for an extension there through the August recess to produce documents he determined appropriate. Representative Gaetz did not provide these documents, despite multiple extensions provided by the committee. The committee noted to him that an interview would be an opportunity to respond to the allegations against you and relevant questions arising out of the review. However, he declined to voluntarily participate, again making demands to the committee instead. On July 11th, the committee issued a subpoena for his testimony. The subpoena was served electronically to Gaetz and his chief of staff, who had communicated with the committee on behalf of the congressman throughout the investigation. He did not appear to testify pursuant to the committee's subpoena. He did not provide a legal basis for his failure to appear, but informed the committee that he, quote, upon information and belief, the House will not take action to enforce the subpoena. The committee informed Gaetz that following his failure to comply with the subpoena and to provide a fulsome response to previous requests for information, the committee would, quote, rely on the record available to it to make its findings in this matter. He responded by stating that he had prioritized providing evidence that, quote, must clearly and directly proves his innocence, and stated that he, quote, welcomed written requests from the committee. But you, sir, you didn't actually answer their questions before. The committee subsequently sent written questions to him. He issued his response publicly, which did not answer most of the questions, and asserted he was no longer going to voluntarily participate in the investigation. On November 14th, 2024, Gaetz submitted his resignation to the House. Bye. On December 10th, 2024, while several members of the committee objected, a majority voted to release the report. Okay, I don't think I need to read all of these, but there are a bunch of federal laws that they are bringing into this. Section 1591 of Title 18 prohibits moving people inappropriately for intimate acts that are paid for while knowing that it's reckless and they're a minor. Transportation of individuals through interstate or foreign commerce to engage in S-work or illegal intimate activities. Obstruction of Congress is illegal. Oh, wait, what does it say? Corruptly or through threats to influence, obstruct, or impede. Okay. All right, Florida state laws, a felony for a person 24 years of age or older to engage in intimate activity with a 16 or 17-year-old. Hold on, what? Why is it 24 years and older? So if you're 23, it's okay to have intimate activities with a minor? I mean, I guess it is Florida. They're pretty crazy down there. Okay. Paying for intimate acts, possession of controlled substances, snow, and MDMA. Okay. This is just accepting gifts. You can't receive a gift from a friend. It's more than $250. Okay, there's a lot of stuff in here I just don't really care about. All right, if any of this is important, we'll come back. Okay, factual background. Allegations of inappropriate conduct and substance use. On March 30th, 2021, the New York Times reported that Gaetz was under investigation by DOJ for possible violation of trafficking laws. The investigation reportedly related to allegations that Gaetz had an inappropriate relationship with a 17-year-old and paid for her to travel with him. On April 1st, 2021, additional reporting indicated the federal investigation included allegations involving cash payments, the use of illegal substances, the recruitment of women online for intimate acts, and the use of campaign funds to pay for travel for women. The DOJ investigation was part of an ongoing inquiry involving a former county tax collector in Florida named Joel Greenberg, who was sentenced to 11 years in prison in 2022. How did it become part of that? I did not know that. I don't even know who this Joel Greenberg person is. I need to Google that because... Oh, wait, I recognize his face. Okay, anyway. So it was part of that, which is interesting. His arrangement with Joel Greenberg, the committee's record shows that shortly after he was sworn into Congress in 2017, Gaetz became friends with Greenberg, who had also recently taken office as the Seminole County tax collector. According to Greenberg, the two met at the house of Christopher Dorworth, a Florida lobbyist. They frequently attended parties and other gatherings with young women in attendance. Many of those women were initially contacted by Greenberg via the website, not seeking arrangements. And Greenberg subsequently introduced the women to Gaetz. That site has advertised itself as sugar dating, that primarily connected older men and younger women seeking mutually beneficial relationships. The website was generally understood by many of the women interviewed by the committee to involve, at minimum, an exchange of companionship for money. There have been prosecutions against individuals for trafficking that originated with contacts made through Seeking Arrangement or similar websites, and some have called for the website to be shut down due to its facilitation of work. These platforms are known to, quote, make it easier for traffickers to exploit victims and connect with buyers, which is definitely true. The committee did not receive any evidence that he had his own account on that website, but Greenberg indicated he frequently showed the site to him and that he provided his login credentials to Gaetz. Okay, so according to Greenberg, he and Gaetz would split the costs of illicit substances, hotels, and earls. For example, the committee reviewed evidence that such activity occurred in July 2017. Specifically, evidence showed that Gaetz, Mr. Greenberg, and others gathered at a rental property located in the Brickell neighborhood of Miami, Florida, for a weekend beginning on July 7th, 2017. Gaetz and Greenberg also spent time at Fort Lauderdale during the Miami stay, where Gaetz withdrew at least $1,200 in cash from 3 different accounts at a single ATM. I don't think it was... Is there withdrawal limits? I can't remember. Let me see. What are ATM withdrawal limits. Is there like a standard? Okay, 1,000 to 3,000 is like the average. So I was gonna say it's pretty sketchy to be like pulling out that much money from different accounts, but if you have a limit, I guess it's not that weird. On June 22nd, 2017, he paid $6,300 for that rental booking. July 9th, 2017, Greenberg paid Gaetz $1,600 by check. Greenberg stated the check was reimbursement for a share of the rental. Greenberg also noted that they met up with another individual for dinner that weekend, and he shared a photo of Gaetz himself and the other individual on social media on July 8th. The committee received evidence confirming that Gaetz at times personally made payments to women who attended parties with him and Greenberg using various peer-to-peer electronic payment services, as well as checks and cash. I don't know if they'll include this, but there were leaked, I don't know if they're true, like payments on like Venmo. Again, they're so stupid. The committee's record also indicates that Mr. Greenberg sometimes paid women for having intimate relations with Gaetz, and that was sometimes reimbursed by Gaetz. Witnesses indicated that there were times where a lump sum would be sent to one woman who would then distribute the money evenly among others who attended the parties. Likewise, in one instance, Gaetz sent $400 to Greenberg with the note, "Hit up victim A." Greenberg then sent two women payments totaling $400, including victim A. On August 19th, 2020, Greenberg was indicted on charges related to his misuse of motor vehicle records and identification documents in his role as tax collector and his attempt to falsely accuse a political opponent of being a PDF file. He was additionally charged with trafficking of a child, wire fraud, bribery of a public official, theft of government property, and related charges. Okay, I want to look into this a little bit more because I did not know who this person was. He pled guilty to 6 charges, including trafficking of victim A in May 2021, but his sentencing was delayed until December 2022 due to an ongoing cooperation in several other matters. As part of his cooperation, he provided information that was ultimately corroborated and ended up in successful prosecutions. So I think he was when I was just looking, almost it's scheduled, sentenced to 11 years. So, I mean, based on this list, that's got to be because he participated and cooperated with that. Okay, 2, Gaetz' interactions with women he met through Greenberg. Transactional nature of the interactions. From 2017 to 2020, Gaetz made tens of thousands of dollars in payments to women the committee determined were likely in connection with intimate activities and or substance use. Payments were made to these women using peer-to-peer payment platforms such as PayPal, Venmo, and Cash App. While Gaetz had accounts in his name on each of these platforms, he also sometimes paid women through another person's PayPal account or through an account held under a pseudonym's email account. He also paid some of the women by check or cash. Oh, wait, no. So this is the, wait. Okay. The following chart summarizes payments made by Gaetz to Greenberg and to women via peer-to-peer payments. Okay. Oh my God, he gave his former girlfriend $63,000 over 3 years. Yeah, I mean, you can see all of these charges and then like $4,000 to Greenberg. But I could have sworn they had, when they released this, it had, like, you know how in Venmo you can leave a comment with your transaction? Like, I thought he left a comment, so I wonder if they're going to include that too. The committee's record indicates that Gaetz was in a long-term relationship with woman 1, his former girlfriend, and therefore some of these payments may have been legitimate nature. However, as discussed further below, woman 1 asserted her Fifth Amendment right when asked whether the payments to her former boyfriend were for an intimate activity and or substances, or for her to pass on to others for such purposes. Based on that assertion, combined with evidence received from other sources, the committee found substantial reason to believe that most of these payments were for such activity. The committee was not able to speak with every woman who received payments from Gaetz that were suspected of being part of illicit activity. Several women initially were responsive to the committee's outreach, but later told the committee they would not voluntarily participate. Other women were clear at first contact then that they feared retaliation or were unwilling to participate or voluntarily relive their interactions with Gaetz. Due to women's reluctance to cooperate, as well as the delay caused by the DOJ, the committee was unable to determine the full extent of the payments to women were compensation for engaging in intimate activity with him. However, the record before the committee provides substantial reason to believe that many of the payments in the chart above were made in connection with intimate activity and or substance use. The committee was also not able to quantify the amount of cash payments made to women or the amount of payments that other individuals, such as Greenberg, made on behalf of Gaetz. Gaetz refused to answer questions about his relationships with the women involved. Obviously, there was, however, evidence that he understood and shared many of the women's transactional views of their arrangements. In one text exchange viewed by the committee, Gaetz balked at a woman's request that he send her money after he accused her of, quote, ditching him on a night when she was feeling tired, claiming she only gave him a, quote, drive-by. The woman asserted to Gaetz that she was being, quote, treated differently than other women he was paying for intimate acts. The committee also obtained text messages in which Gaetz' then girlfriend informed some of the women who were typically paid for intimate acts that the guys, so Gaetz and Greenberg, wanted me to share that they are a little limited in their cash flow this weekend. Matt was like, if it can be more of a customer appreciation. Jesus Christ. Oh my gosh. A few months later, she noted that BTW, Matt also mentioned he is going to be a bit generous because of the customer appreciation thing last time. What a great guy. Another woman specifically recalled a conversation with Gaetz about issues with Greenberg's, quote, following through with expected payments after his encounters with her. Greenberg told the committee that Gaetz was aware that the women they had intimate relations with and paid what? Okay, let me read that again. Greenberg told the committee that Gaetz was aware that the women they had intimate acts with and paid had met Greenberg through the sugar dating website. Okay. Gaetz did not appear to have negotiated specific payment amounts prior to engaging in these activities with the women he paid. Instead, the women had a general expectations that they would typically receive some amount of money after this encounter. In 2017, using a pseudonym's account, Gaetz made payments to women largely without description of the purpose of the payment. After several months, he began to use other payment accounts, including one with his own name, using innocuous descriptions to indicate the purpose of the payment. Yes, this is what I'm talking about. Do they have it? Okay, maybe I'll have to look at that. It seems like it's in what the fuck is it called? I don't know, like the appendix. I can't think of the right word. Gaetz did not provide any information regarding the tens of thousands of dollars in payments he made to over a dozen women, despite being offered the opportunity to do so by the committee. He was provided with a list of women who the committee found received payments from him beginning in 2017 and was asked to inform the committee of the purpose of those payments, as well as to inform the committee how he knew the individual and whether, quote, if you engaged in any intimate activity with that individual, did she ever indicate to you that she expected payment for engaging in those activities with you? Rather than answering the questions, Gaetz asserted incorrectly, you ask in part whether I've had intimate relations with a list of adult women over the past 7 years. The lawful, consensual, intimate activities of adults are not the business of Congress. Sir, they're not asking about your intimate relations with people. They're asking if you paid them. Okay? Many of the women interviewed by the committee were clear that there was a general expectation of intimate acts. One woman was paid more than $5,000 by Gaetz between 2018 and 2019, told the committee that 99% of the time that Gaetz and I were hanging out, there was intimate acts involved. Oh no. Sorry, y'all. I didn't realize you can click the footnotes. Text messages obtained by the committee show that Gaetz would also ask women to bring substances to their rendezvous. I don't know why I love when people call this like a booty call rendezvous. It's very funny. In some instances, requesting MJ cartridges and repaying the women directly, but in other cases, requesting a full complement of party favors, vitamins, or rolls. Gaetz sent one woman several $100s for MJ cartridges. One woman stated that with respect to a 2018 Bahamas trip, quote, myself and Gaetz' then girlfriend brought substances with us, and I do know, that Matt supplied his then girlfriend with money. Another woman said that she brought snow to at least one event with Gaetz and that she witnessed him taking it or E on at least 5 occasions. Greenberg told the committee that he would typically provide substances such as E for events he attended with Gaetz and would pay him back in cash. Several other women observed Gaetz to be under the influence of the substances. Additionally, nearly every witness interviewed observed Gaetz using MJ. Again, I don't care about this stuff as long as you're not doing it like while you're on duty at work. Like, I have no problem with that. Okay, selected interactions. Based on the evidentiary record, the committee identified at least 20 occasions from the beginning of 2017 through the middle of 2020 where there was substantial evidence that Gaetz met with women who were paid for intimate acts and or substances. The committee also received testimony related to multiple additional events, trips, or parties where Gaetz may have paid women for intimate acts and substances, although the committee could not determine the specific dates or locations for all of them. To the extent that he paid money to women in connection with those trips, at least some such transactions are reflected in the chart discussed in the prior section. One of the women that Greenberg met on the Seeking Arrangement site. And what? Okay, like, am I just like, sometimes I'm just like, am I not reading it, or did they just like not write this in half English? One of the women that Mr. Greenberg met on Seeking Arrangement and introduced Gaetz in or around March 2017 became Gaetz' girlfriend when he was almost 35 and she was 21. Look, we could talk about age gap stuff all day. I'll tell you, I'm 28 and I would never date someone who's 21. I think that's like, you're in such different, especially at 35. Also, you're in the government. Can you imagine? I can't. I'm just not even, I can't even go into it because I'm going to get angry. The relationship continued for over 2 years. The relationship was not exclusive, and the committee received evidence that Gaetz' then girlfriend sometimes participated with him in these intimate encounters with other women who were active on the website and otherwise involved in intimate acts for money arrangements. The committee also obtained texts where she appeared to act as an intermediary between Gaetz and the woman he paid for intimate acts. She herself was paid tens of thousands of dollars, as we saw in that chart, like $68,000, by Gaetz over the course of their 2-year relationship. She stated, quote, Matt always paid for anything for me. However, she invoked her Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination in response to several questions, including what the purpose of specific payment was, where Gaetz ever paid her, whether Gaetz ever had paid her for intimate acts, and whether she was aware of Gaetz paying others for intimate acts. I mean, it's obvious because of the text, but whatever. She also invoked the Fifth Amendment privilege when asked to explain an increase in payments from Gaetz in 2019, whether any of those payments from him were related to substances and whether payments she received from Greenberg were related to Gaetz. The committee obtained messages between Greenberg and a 20-year-old woman he met through the site who noted, quote, I usually do $400 per meet. As shown in the following exchange, Greenberg and the woman made plans to each bring a friend to their meet. The committee found that the language used by the woman and amount proposed were consistent with typical, quote, pay per meet arrangements made by users in the Seeking Arrangement site at that time. No. Oh my God, I can't. Not the picture they used for Matt. Okay, messages between Joel Greenberg and the 20-year-old. If you have a friend that is down, perhaps all 4 of us can meet up later. Do you party at all? Okay, so this is Joel, and then this is the girl. Oh, that's perfect. I have a friend who introduced me to the website that I could bring. She's very pretty, great personality. I usually do $400 per meet. Does your friend use the website as well? And yes, I do like to go out sometimes. He said, very cool. Yes, he understands the deal. Smiley face. What does your friend look like? 400 is not a problem. Are you both old enough to drink? So what do you have in mind for tonight? My friend, this picture of Matt Gaetz. This looks like it's in like a classroom too. Oh my God, you know that's a lie. Ooh, my friend thinks he's really cute. Well, he's down here only for the day. We work hard. We work hard and play hard. Have you ever tried this illicit substance? Evidence reviewed by the committee shows that on several occasions, Gaetz met with the woman who corresponded with Greenberg in these messages. He continues to follow her on social media and has paid her more than $2,000 since late 2018. The committee received evidence indicating that the 20-year-old woman in the above messages joined Greenberg and Gaetz at a hotel in Florida less than 2 weeks after her initial encounter with Gaetz. The committee's record indicates that Gaetz also invited another woman who he regularly paid for intimate acts to meet him at the hotel without disclosing to her that the others would be present. The other woman, who was 21, had recently asked the congressman for his help with her tuition. Honestly, girl, get that bag. She recalled that Gaetz agreed and told her to meet him at the hotel room where he would provide her with a check, which, according to the woman, quote, was interesting because he had normally sent Venmo payments. When she arrived to pick up the check, she found Greenberg and the 20-year-old woman present. The 21-year-old told the committee there was, quote, expectations of a, quote, intimate encounter. The four of them had intimate relations, and afterwards, Gaetz gave her a check for $750 made out to cash with tuition reimbursement in the memo line, which she deposited the next day to help pay her tuition. I mean, yeah, get that bag, but not from Matt Gaetz. The 21-year-old woman told the committee she believed that the encounter, quote, could potentially be a form of coercion because I really need the money, obviously. Gaetz' financial records confirmed that he wrote the check and that he was present at the hotel identified by the woman on the date identified by the woman. As another example, the committee obtained texts that appeared to show Gaetz messaging a woman he knew through Greenberg, inviting her to travel on a private plane to Key West from May 19th to the 21st in 2017 with, quote, 2 guys, 4 girls, a very high-quality adventurous group. She initially responded, quote, yeah, I'm in, to which Representative Gaetz stated, fantastic. As is true with all the time you spend with me, it'll be fun and very chill. The same woman was photographed with Gaetz on May 19th in Orlando. The photo depicts Gaetz in a casual shirt with his arm around her in a dimly lit bar. She was also photographed in front of a helicopter with 3 other women associated with Gaetz around the same time, including his then girlfriend. After the committee obtained copies of the text and a selfie photo. Okay, boomers. I don't even know who wrote this report, but there was public reporting about the evidence. In response to that reporting, Gaetz' spokesperson released a statement asserting that, quote, Gaetz does not know anything about the woman you're referencing, though he takes thousands of selfies each year. Okay. Payment records reviewed by the committee, however, show that Gaetz paid $600 to the woman the same day he was photographed with her. In February 2018, Greenberg introduced Gaetz to 2 women with accounts on the seeking arrangement site. They were generally older than the other women that Greenberg had previously introduced to Gaetz, and they had a slightly different relationship with the 2 men. They were the only women paid by Gaetz who denied to the committee that the payments they received from the congressman were compensation for engaging in intimate activities. One of the women who was 25 when she met Gaetz testified that she understood herself to be, quote, more sophisticated than some other women on that site, in contrast to the woman who almost exclusively interacted with Gaetz in hotel rooms or at private parties. This woman attended events, as his date for which she was paid between $500 and $1,000 per event. She also stated that she did not feel pressure to have intimate relations with him and only did so on some occasions. She told the committee that in December 2019, Gaetz had his congressional assistant arrange travel for her to DC for one night. According to the woman, she attended a dinner with Gaetz and a few other individuals. She stayed overnight at a hotel with Gaetz and had intimate relations with him. Gaetz sent the woman $1,000 around that time. The woman told the committee she was paid to be his date and that the intimate act was not necessarily an expectation. The other older woman, who was 27 when she met Gaetz, was the only woman interviewed by the committee who did not view the relationship as transactional in nature. The first time she met with Gaetz, however, she had intimate relations with him and was paid $1,000 by Greenberg, which she understood to have been at Gaetz's direction. She told the committee that she viewed her relationship with Gaetz as more or less dating, although, quote, it was never anything serious. She said she was not familiar with his then girlfriend and said she was not aware that he was also having an intimate relationship with her friend, the 25-year-old woman. Okay, so they were friends. Great. She frequently commented on his social media, and he still follows her on social media. Most of the intimate acts for money encounters that the committee reviewed occurred in Florida, particularly around Orlando. Several of the women involved were students based in that area. On several occasions, however, Gaetz did travel with women that he paid for intimate acts. On September 13th, 2018, Gaetz, 2 other men, and 6 women traveled to the Bahamas. He arrived by commercial plane later than the others who arrived on private planes. Oh my God, loser, taking a commercial plane. The group stayed at a vacation rental booked and paid for by one of the male travelers. The attendees stated that this was a social trip. They sunbathed, chartered a boat, and went to dinners and to a casino as a group. He engaged in intimate activity with at least 4 of the women on the trip. Several of the women recalled that Gaetz appeared to be under the influence of substances and that he took E during this trip. One woman said she witnessed Gaetz taking E as well. Most, if not all, of the women involved had some history of intimate interactions with Gaetz for which they had been paid. While there were no specific payments to the women in connection with the Bahamas trip, according to one woman, quote, the trip itself was more so the payment. The group returned to Orlando on the 16th of September, 2018. Gaetz flew on a private plane with another man and 3 women, while remaining individuals flew on another private plane. Okay, they allowed Matt to ride back with them on a private plane. Gaetz paid for 2 women to travel to New York City in January 2019 to meet up with him and his then girlfriend. The committee reviewed text messages in which Gaetz asked the women about obtaining substances in advance of the trip, stating, quote, who can help me with party favors? In addition to paying for their travel costs, the committee received evidence that Gaetz sent the women money to compensate them for intimate activities they engaged in with during the trip. While all the women that the committee interviewed stated their intimate activity with Gaetz was consensual, at least one felt that the use of substances at the parties and events they attended may have, quote, impaired their ability to really know what was going on or fully consent. Indeed, nearly every woman that the committee spoke with could not remember the details of at least one or more of the events they attended with Gaetz and attributed that to drug or alcohol consumption. It's giving Diddy vibes. Although I don't think it's not giving he put something in their drink, though. It's just they're doing that at the party and then they're kind of unconscious. The woman also discussed instances where Gaetz would try to convince them to have intimate acts with him, which is coercive. Or Greenberg, quote, he would make me feel bad about not having intimate acts with him, either of them. And that he would say, quote, why don't you want to have intimate acts with me? Or, quote, Greenberg looks very sad over there. Make him happy. Ugh. Another woman said that their relationship at some point was, quote, a loving friendship, but over time it came to feel like a task. A third woman said, quote, when I look back on certain moments, I feel violated. One woman said, I think about it all the time. I still see him when I turn on the TV and there's nothing anyone can do. It's frustrating to know I lived a reality that he denies. Yeah, that's really sad. Okay, 3, Representative Gaetz' interactions with the minor he met through Greenberg. Numerous witnesses told the committee that on July 15th, 2017, Gaetz attended a party at Mr. Dorworth's home. My brain. This party was also attended by Greenberg, Gaetz' then girlfriend, and several others, including victim A, who was 17 at the time. The record overwhelmingly, suggests that Gaetz had intimate acts with multiple women at the party, including the 17-year-old, for which they were paid. Mr. Dorworth testified that Gaetz was a frequent guest at his home. To enter the community where he lives, non-residents are required to present a driver's license before entering, and entry records are maintained. Dorworth believed that Gaetz invited people to his home on the evening of the 15th. Likewise, his then girlfriend provided an affidavit in the civil litigation stating that she and Gaetz attended on July 15th. The committee received testimony that victim A and Gaetz had intimate acts twice during the party, including at least once in the presence of other party attendees. Victim A recalled receiving $400 in cash from Gaetz that evening, which she understood to be payment for those intimate acts. No, I can't even say intimate acts. Like, it's fully R word. At the time, she had just completed her junior year of high school. Oh, my God. It's just so gross. Victim A said that she did not inform Gaetz that she was under 18 at the time, nor did he ask her age, obviously. The committee did not receive any evidence indicating that Gaetz was aware that victim A was a minor when he R-worded her. Victim A acknowledged that she was under the influence of E during her intimate encounters with Gaetz at the July 15th party, and recalled seeing Gaetz use snow at that party. Victim A told the committee she was, quote, certain of her encounters with Gaetz that night. As discussed further below, Gaetz generally denied engaging in those activities with a minor, but refused to answer specific questions regarding his interactions with victim A. On August 7th, that's my birthday, August 2nd, 2024, Representative Gaetz sent the committee a copy of a social media post from Mr. Dorworth regarding his lawsuit against victim A, in which he had accused her of being part of a conspiracy to defame him, of course. In that post, Dorworth discussed his recent settlement with victim A, in which no funds were exchanged. He asserted that he had, quote, succeeded in proving that victim A, quote, lied about him, and that she, quote, she didn't just lie about me, she lied about Gaetz as well in a federal criminal investigation that resulted in no charges against the congressman because our false accuser has no credibility and had no evidence for the crime that didn't occur. The same day, Dorworth revised his post after victim A's attorney contacted his attorneys to remove his claim that he succeeded in proving that victim A had lied, but maintaining his assertion that she falsely accused Gaetz. Dorworth testified to the committee that he himself was not present for the July 15th party at his own home, despite victim A's assertions to the contrary. Interesting. After the committee's interview and after he settled his lawsuit against victim A, Dorworth was deposed and confronted with cell phone records showing that he was, in fact, at the party. Dorworth stated, quote, I don't have an answer to these questions, and, quote, I am not going to opine on cell phone data when I don't know anything about it. I don't know. I do not believe I was there. There could be a million reasons for that. As the questions about his cell phone pinging from a tower less than a mile from his home continued, Dorworth became irritated, informing the attorney, quote, I'm telling you that I was not at that party. So if you believe those phone records somehow impute that I was or that they make it just undeniable, then that is certainly your belief. The committee requested through counsel that Dorworth clarify his testimony regarding his whereabouts on the evening of the 15th. His counsel did not respond. Gaetz' response to the allegations of inappropriate misconduct and substance use. Gaetz categorically stated to the committee that the allegations, quote, he, quote, may have engaged in intimate misconduct, including violations of federal laws and relating to trafficking and state laws relating to the paying for S work and our wording were false, and that, quote, these allegations were investigated by the DOJ and the investigation was completely dropped. He also repeatedly incorrectly stated that the DOJ investigation exonerated him. Gaetz did not provide any explanation for his assertion that the allegations of state law violations were false, even though those violations were not within the jurisdiction of the DOJ. He also denied the allegations that he used illicit substances. All right, how long are we going? Oh my God, already an hour, y'all. We're only 29 pages in of this 42-page document. Okay, the committee provided Gaetz with the names of 15 women who were alleged to have received payments from him or on his behalf relating to intimate misconduct and substance use, as well as the approximate payment amounts and transaction years, but he did not provide an explanation for those payments. Gaetz responded publicly to the allegations that his payments to women were for intimate acts by stating that, quote, someone is trying to recategorize my generosity to ex-girlfriends as something more untoward. He also repeatedly denied having ever paid for intimate acts when given the opportunity to put that assertion in writing. In this matter, however, Gaetz refused to respond, asserting that, quote, asking about his intimate history as a single man with an adult woman is a bridge too far. Again, they're not asking about, they're asking about the payments. Gaetz did broadly address the allegation that he engaged in intimate activity with a minor. He asserted in September 26, 2024, later a letter to the committee, quote, your correspondence on September 4th asks whether I have engaged in intimate activity with an individual under 18. The answer to this question is unequivocally no, in all caps. You can apply this response to every version of the question in every forum. The committee's September 4th letter, however, specifically asked him whether he was present at the July 15th party, whether he ever engaged in intimate activity with victim one, and when, and whether he ever gave her money directly or indirectly, and if so, for what purpose. Gaetz did not answer any of those questions. Okay, this is the gift. In 2021, news outlets reported that federal investigations were reviewing the 2018 Bahamas trip. According to these reports, the trip was paid for by an associate of Gaetz with connections to the medical MJ industry, who had allegedly also paid for the female escorts on the trip. The only other male attendee was also connected to the medical MJ industry. According to the press reports, DOJ was investigating allegations that the trip may have been part of an illegal influence effort on behalf of the medical MJ industry. As discussed above, the Bahamas trip took place from September 13th to the 16th of 2018, and it was Gaetz, 2 other men, and 6 women. He flew commercial, again, loser, from DC to Bahamas. His associate paid for the vacation rental house, various expenses, such as he paid for various expenses such as meals. No other individuals recalled Gaetz paying for meals, vacation rental, or other activities on this trip, with the exception of his then girlfriend. No one recalled him making cash payments, and his bank statements and credit card records do not show any transaction on these dates, nor large withdrawals of cash in advance of the trip. On the 16th, he flew with his associates, along with 3 female passengers from 20 to 29. This is the allegations related to misuse of official resources. As discussed above, in early 2018, Gaetz met a woman through Greenberg. The same night they met, they had intimate relations, and Greenberg sent her money. At that first meeting, the woman also told Gaetz she needed a new passport for an upcoming trip. She did not initially know Gaetz was a congressman, but he connected her with his then chief of staff, who worked with the State Department's congressional liaison to secure a passport appointment for the women within days of their first meeting. An individual Department of State Miami passport agency sent the chief of staff an email confirming an appointment for your constituent, which the chief of staff then forwarded to the woman who lived in Orlando, Florida, outside of his congressional district. The woman acknowledged to the committee that the money she received from Gaetz or from Greenberg was sent on behalf of Gaetz, but denied that the money was a compensation for their intimate encounter. Instead, she said the $1,000 she received from Greenberg was to assist her with transportation costs to go to the Miami passport office from Orlando. The woman spent $195 to obtain her new passport prior to her trip and a standard $60 fee for in-person appointment plus $135 for the passport. She continued to meet up with Gaetz on other occasions, during which they engaged in intimate activities. The committee reviewed other records relating to the passport assistant requests from the office of Gaetz. It was unusual for the chief of staff to process requests for expedited passports for constituents. Those casework matters were typically handled by district staff. The committee also received evidence that Gaetz tasked the chief of staff with assisting Greenberg on occasion. Chief of staff was no longer employed in Gaetz's office at the time of the committee's review and did not respond to communications from them. Obstructing the committee's investigation. I don't really care about the passport thing. It's not like they were obtaining an illegal passport or something like that, like a false identity thing. So I don't really care. Obstruction of the committee's investigation. On May 23rd, 2023, the committee informed Gaetz that it had reauthorized investigation into several allegations, including inappropriate misconduct and substance use, and sent Gaetz a narrowly tailored request for information seeking specific documents related to the allegations squarely within the committee's jurisdiction, namely violations related to the House gift rule or bribery and improper images on the House floor. The request for information also asked for, quote, any other information that you believe may be relevant to the matter as a whole. In response, Gaetz began sending letters to the chairman and ranking member asserting, among other things, that the committee's request for a 2-week response time and signed declaration under oath, both of which are standard practice for the committee, were unreasonable, and that he was being treated differently than other members of Congress. Gaetz indicated that the committee's request was overly burdensome, as he would need to sort through 6 years' worth of records across various accounts. In these letters, he also began making demands for the committee in exchange for his, quote, good faith cooperation, while suggesting that the committee was being, quote, weaponized against him for various changing reasons. Of course. The chairman and ranking member granted Gaetz an extension through August 11th, 2023. Wait, did they say the date? Oh my gosh. That's like almost 3 months. Gaetz missed the deadline, obviously, and stated he would only produce documents in person at his district office. They responded again, giving him an extension through September 28th, so like another month, to comply with the request, for information. Gaetz again missed the deadline, ultimately producing, again, 3 pages that were not fully responsive on October 2nd, 2023. In his response, Gaetz produced his, quote, boarding passes and itinerary used for the 2018 Bahamas trip, which he also stated that he, quote, paid for personally. However, the boarding passes and itinerary only show his flight to the Bahamas and not his return. As discussed above, Gaetz flew out of the Bahamas via private plane. Gaetz intentionally omitted information relating to his return transportation, indicating the later correspondence that because the committee's request for documents, quote, related to actual or planned travel to the Bahamas, emphasis added, he should not be expected to have produced records for his transportation from that location. What a fucking asshole. When the committee noted that any documents involving his transportation from the Bahamas were clearly related to the travel issue, his response made clear that he was not willing to provide good faith responses. This is his quote. Does the committee also have an interest in every dollar I spent in the Bahamas on food, refreshments, and other travel provisions, such as sunscreen? I ask because your request is unclear, unrelated to House rules, and more than a bit nosy. I can represent to the committee that no funds of mine were expended in the Bahamas for, quote, illicit substances or in intimate misconduct. Despite frequently suggesting that he had insufficient opportunities to respond to the allegations against him, Gaetz sent more than a dozen letters to the chairman and ranking member throughout the committee's review. In addition to alleging the committee's process was being weaponized against him, Gaetz repeatedly alleged that the committee members and staff were leaking information to the press, that the committee's nonpartisan staff were actually acting as Democrats, or that the committee was working on behalf of former Speaker Kevin McCarthy. He also demanded to know the sources of the allegations against him and argued that the committee's investigation should be closed because the DOJ had exonerated him. Look, we don't know if they were leaking that to the press. You know, I don't know if we'll ever know that, but anyway. On May 20th, 2024, the committee requested Gaetz provide availability for an interview to be conducted sometime in the first 2 weeks of June. The interview would be an opportunity for Gaetz to answer questions about and respond to the allegations. In that letter, The committee appended a fulsome list of his allegations involving Gaetz to ensure his awareness of all the allegations before the committee. On the 24th of May, Representative Gaetz responded to the committee's letter. He demanded the committee investigate, quote, leaks to the press prior to him submitting for an interview, and argued incorrectly that the committee could not subpoena his testimony unless it impaneled an investigative committee. He also referred to the, quote, voluminous documentary evidence he produced to the committee that he claimed showed his innocence, and categorically denied all the allegations. Sir, where is that? Where is the voluminous documentary evidence? Please show us. On June 17, 2024, the committee informed Gaetz that it would be both expanding and narrowing the scope of its investigations. We read through that. He responded on the 24th, stating he would need additional time, of course, to review over 10,000 records he had previously submitted to the DOJ. He also reiterated his request to the committee that the committee provide him the confidential information about its investigative sources, as well as regarding any investigation of disclosures in the press. He then publicly called the committee's investigation, quote, frivolous, and said it was an obvious fact that every investigation into me ends the same way, my exoneration. Oh my God. He's so gross too. Like, he just really gives me the ick. Also, he's had way too much plastic surgery done, and it's just like not looking good for him. He ultimately produced some additional documents to the committee through early September, although it is not clear how many of those documents had been previously produced to the DOJ. The committee also invited Gaetz to clarify the relevancy of the records he produced, most of which did not appear to be responsive to their request, to which he stated only that he was prioritizing the evidence that most clearly proved his innocence. Gaetz also falsely stated in a letter to the committee, which he shared in a public social media post, that he, quote, had voluntarily produced tens of thousands of records. To the contrary, Gaetz provided only a couple hundred records, more than 90% of which was either irrelevant or publicly available. Despite multiple extensions from the committee, produced these 10,000 records he claimed, they ultimately claimed he would no longer cooperate with the committee in a public letter. The committee also reviewed allegations that Gaetz may have sought to tamper with witness testimony in connection with his investigation of the DOJ. They refused to provide a copy of an audio recording. Yeah, whatever. I don't really know, again, what needs to be disclosed or what's allowed to be disclosed. Excuse me. I don't know enough about this committee, but seems sus that they're not sharing it if that's the norm, which is kind of what the committee wrote about earlier. While the committee did not find documentary evidence that Gaetz directly acted to prevent any woman from testifying before the DOJ or the committee, some women cited a fear of retaliation from the congressman when declining to speak on the record. Yeah. Okay, findings. The committee found Representative Gaetz violated state laws related to inappropriate misconduct. Okay. They did not obtain substantial evidence for violating federal trafficking laws. He alleged in news reports have paid a minor to engage in intimate activity and travel with him to the Bahamas. However, the youngest person who traveled with him and his associates was 18. Look, to me, that's still creepy, but technically not illegal. Further, she and the other women who attended the Bahamas trip did not recall being paid for those intimate acts on that occasion. One woman testified that she was not paid for the intimate acts on the trip, although the trip was more than payment itself. As discussed above, there is evidence that Gaetz paid women to travel to New York and DC for intimate acts, paid intimate acts. At the time, each of the women was over the age of 18. Gaetz's relationship with these women involved an exploitative power imbalance. The committee does not have reason to believe that he used force, fraud, or coercion, as those terms apply under the applicable law. They did find that he had engaged in paying for intimate acts. There is substantial evidence that shows that. We read a lot of that. They heard from half a dozen witnesses. Every young woman that the committee interviewed confirmed they were paid for those intimate acts. A few of the women characterized their relationships differently, describing a date for hire arrangement that may not necessarily implicate state paying for intimate acts laws. Even assuming the payments to those regular women would not violate those laws, the committee found evidence that Gaetz spent tens of thousands of dollars on other women with whom he had shared, understanding that they would be compensated for those intimate acts with him. There were potentially additional amounts spent on those acts that could not be specifically identified either because payments were made in cash or through other intermediaries. The committee's record thus indicates that Gaetz enticed and procured women to engage in intimate activity for hire and purchase the services of women engaging in intimate activity for hire in violation of the Florida state law. Gaetz refused to answer the committee's questions about these payments despite opportunities to do so. While he has been unwilling to address the allegations under oath, he's made several public statements, including that the generosity to ex-girlfriends is being misconstrued and that he has, quote, never ever paid for intimate acts. The committee found this to be untrue. Members are required to uphold the laws of the U.S. and all governments therein and never be a party to their evasion. Through his violations of these laws, obviously went against his ethical obligation. He took advantage of the economic vulnerability of these young women to lure them into these intimate acts, for which they received an average of a few $100s for each encounter. Such behavior is, quote, not generosity to ex-girlfriends, as it does not reflect credibly upon the House. Okay, that's the violation of the law or the House rule. They found that he violated Florida's R-word law. Substantial evidence against this 17-year-old woman, girl, I guess. Several witnesses testified before the grand jury and in civil litigation. He denied the allegation but refused to testify under oath, of course. He stated that victim A doesn't exist and that he has not had intimate relations with a 17-year-old since I was 17. The committee found that to be untrue and determined that there is substantial evidence that he had intimate acts or R-worded the 17-year-old when he was 35. It was in violation of Florida's R-word law. He suggested that the allegations against him have been manufactured and that Greenberg and victim A are not credible. The committee has acknowledged that Greenberg's credibility is in doubt and received additional evidence from him that is not included in this report. Much of it salacious but unverifiable, although consistent with the nature of the conduct that the committee learned from other witnesses. The committee found no reason to doubt the credibility of victim A. Gaetz suggested that the fact that she was, through her attorneys, expressed an intention to seek civil redress against him for R-wording her means that she has a financial motive that undermines the veracity of her claims. The committee reviewed a letter from counsel to victim A to counsel for Gaetz, which stated she intended to, quote, pursue claims against Gaetz, including child S trafficking and R-word. Regardless of whether victim A has any pecuniary motive in setting such a communication, she cooperated with the DOJ and their investigation, would unlikely pursue charges against Gaetz. Victim A is entitled to all the protections and remedies available to her under civil laws, and her intention to pursue claims against Gaetz and others does not negate her credibility. Moreover, as discussed above, the committee obtained testimony and documentary evidence from other witnesses corroborating the allegations. Basically, it went against the law and the ethics. However, R-word is a strict liability crime. After he learned that victim A was a minor, he maintained contact, and less than 6 months after she turned 18, he met up with her again for intimate activities. When Greenberg was prosecuted for S trafficking the same individual, Gaetz denied that she existed. His conduct reflects credibly upon the House. Found him using illicit substances. These two illegal ones and this one, depending where you are, potentially illegal. At least 2 women saw Gaetz using Snow and E at different events. Even more women understood him to regularly be using E. There's also ample evidence that Gaetz purchased and used MJ. He appears to have set up a pseudonymous. Is that a? I didn't even know that was a word. A fake email account from his house office in the Capitol complex for the purpose of purchasing MJ. Gaetz denied using illicit drugs in written correspondence to the committee. Members of Congress are not required to undergo the same background check process as other government officials who obtain a security clearance. That process includes answering questions about use of illegal drugs in the 7 preceding years. Gaetz used illegal drugs on numerous occasions between 2017 and 2020 in violation of state laws. The committee also received evidence that he and his associates provided drugs to women to facilitate the intimate misconduct described above. Okay. They didn't really say that part, that he was providing it to them. I guess it was kind of implied, but anyway. Gaetz's conduct violated paragraph 2 of the ethics code. They found that he violated the house gift rule. Again, this I don't really care about. They all get paid for these fucking trips and shit. So I'm not going to read that. They found he dispensed special privileges and favors. This is the whole passport thing, I think. Yeah, I don't care about this. The committee found he sought to obstruct. The committee found substantial evidence that Gaetz engaged in obstructive conduct with respect to the committee's investigation. He pointed to the evidence that would exonerate him, yet failed to produce any such materials. Gaetz continuously sought to deflect, deter, or mislead the committee in order to prevent his actions from being exposed. This was most notable with respect to the committee's specific request regarding the Bahamas trip. I love that he's like, well, I shared how I got there. That should be enough. Yeah, he clearly understood that he had acted contrary to the House rules by accepting the private plane home. Despite asserting he wanted an opportunity to address the allegations against him, he declined to provide testimony voluntarily and did not appear when subpoenaed. Gaetz was also provided ample time to review and produce documents requested at various points in the committee investigation, yet he produced only a handful of non-public documents to the committee. These documents were largely irrelevant, corresponding to the time periods after most of the relevant conduct occurred. Likewise, he informed the committee that he would welcome the opportunity to respond to written questions, and the committee then sent a list of 16 questions. After requesting an extension to respond to them, which was granted, it appears that Gaetz used that time to craft a public letter mischaracterizing the committee's request and asserting that he would, quote, no longer voluntarily cooperate despite his uncooperative approach throughout the review. His actions undermine not only his claims that he had exculpatory information to provide, but also his claims that he intended to cooperate with the committee in good faith. It's apparent that Gaetz' assertions were nothing more than attempts to delay the investigation. Gaetz routinely ignored or significantly delayed producing relevant information. His failure to respond required the committee to issue subpoenas to financial institutions to get those financial records. Those records show that Gaetz bought and sold stocks and cryptocurrencies from a trading account he opened in March 2021. Some of the trades were below the $1,000 reporting threshold, but others were not. Gaetz not only failed to file the required periodic transaction reports, but he also failed to disclose the transactions in his annual financial disclosure statement. Okay, so this is just like a weird, like unrelated thing. But let's be honest, so many of these people in government make so much money off stocks. I mean, look at Nancy Pelosi and her fucking husband. It's insane. The committee's longstanding practice is not to take enforcement action where a failure to file required disclosures is inadvertent, but because of this lack of cooperation, the committee was unable to determine the reason the transactions were not disclosed. The committee reminded Gaetz of his duty of diligence and candor to the committee. He responded, suggesting that the committee had a duty of candor to him and must reveal the confidential sources supporting the allegations against him. But didn't he, they provided him a list of the names of the women. So obviously some of it is going to be confidential anyway, but I wonder what that is in relation to. Okay, the committee's rules prevent such disclosures, but they did release the name. So I wonder if they just said, like, do you know this woman? And did you pay this woman for intimate acts? I think they kind of mentioned that above. Moreover, the committee had serious concerns that Gaetz might retaliate against individuals who cooperated with the committee. Yes, and multiple of them said that. In 2020, the committee admonished Gaetz for his conduct towards a witness in a congressional proceeding, finding that he acted in violation of the Code of Official Conduct for a public statement that was perceived by some as a threat towards a witness. In that matter, the committee did not find sufficient evidence to conclude that Gaetz had the requisite criminal intent and noted that he had expressed regret for his conduct. In contrast, in the current matter, there is sufficient evidence of Gaetz's intent to derail the investigation. The committee determined that Gaetz's attempts to mislead and deter the committee from investigating him implicated federal criminal laws relating to false statements and obstruction of Congress. Even if Gaetz's obstruction conduct is in this investigation did not rise to the level of criminal violation, it was certainly inconsistent with the requirement that members act in a manner that reflects credibility upon the House in violation of this House rule. All right, conclusion, wrapping it up here. Based on the above, the committee determined there is substantial evidence that Gaetz violated House rules and other standards of conduct prohibiting paying for intimate acts, R-wording, illicit substance use, impermissible gifts, special favors or privileges, and obstruction of Congress. The committee made no special oversight findings in this report. No budget statement is submitted. No funding is authorized by any measure of this report. Okay, so this is the chairman. I read on behalf of the members of the committee who do not support the release. Oh, interesting. Who do not support the release of this report regarding Matt Gaetz. We believe and remain steadfast in the position that the House Committee on Ethics lost jurisdiction to release to the public any substantive work product regarding Gaetz after his resignation from the House on the 14th of November. While we do not challenge the committee's findings, we take great exception that the majority deviated from the committee's well-established standards and voted to release a report on an individual no longer under the committee's jurisdiction, an action the committee has not taken since 2006. I just want to know. Investigation on allegations. Okay, I don't know who that is. So anyway, sorry, I was going to see if that was, like, if they said who it was. House rules give the committee jurisdiction over current members, officers, and employees of the House. Consistent with these rules, when a member who is under investigation by the committee leaves the House, the committee's standard practices is to close its investigation and make no further statement on its findings. We do not believe the rules authorize the committee to continue or expand its jurisdiction as it sees fit. Any precedent to the contrary is extremely rare, inconsistent with the rules, and outweighed by the vast majority of matters, too numerous to list, in which the committee took no material action after losing jurisdiction. Gaetz resigned from Congress, withdrew from consideration to serve in the next administration, and declared he would not seek to be seated in the 119th Congress. The decision to publish a report after his resignation breaks from the committee's longstanding practice, opens the committee to undue criticism, and will be viewed by some as an attempt to weaponize the committee's process. We believe that operating outside the jurisdictional bounds set forth by the House rules and committee standards, especially making public disclosures, is a dangerous departure with potentially catastrophic consequences. Sorry, I don't know why I'm burping so much. Finally, we join the views of the committee as expressed in its December 23, 2024 public statement addressing the significance and unusual amount of public reporting on the committee's review of this matter, as expressed by the committee, quote, to the extent that any of the public reporting on this matter came from unauthorized disclosures or of confidential committee information, we strongly condemn such unauthorized disclosures, which are damaging and harmful to the committee's work. So they're basically saying we did not send leaks to the press. All right. That's it. Thoughts? Leave them in the comments. Overall, obviously, absolutely gross. And, I don't think anything is going to happen to Matt Gaetz. That's just kind of what happens a lot of the times. And I just hope everybody stays away, and I hope he leaves us all alone. And I hope I never have to see his crazy fucking eyebrows ever again. Okay. That's it for me. Peace and love, my friends. Please subscribe, hit that like button to amplify, turn on your notifications to see when I post new videos, and let me know what y'all think of the report below, and I will see you in my next video.